Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. So in this video we're gonna discuss about how to create Python AWS Lambda function. So in this video we're gonna create a VPC with the help of Lambda function. So let's get started. For that, firstly you have to know about what is AWS Lambda. So AWS Lambda is a service provided by Amazon Web Service that allows you to run code uh, without provisioning or managing servers. With Lambda, you can run code in response to specific events such as changes to data in an S3 bucket or a new line added to a stream in Kinesis. This makes it easy to build and run application services that automatically scale based on demand. So the next one is how does AWS Lambda work? So in the first step, we have first upload your AWS Lambda code in any language support by AWS Lambda like Java, Python, Go, C Sharp, and some of the language that are supported by AWS Lambda function. And the next is there are some AWS services that allows you to trigger AWS Lambda. Also, AWS Lambda helps you to upload code and the event detail on which it should be triggered and execute AWS Lambda code with it is triggered by AWS services. And AWS charge only when the AWS Lambda code execute and not otherwise. So here are some concept of AWS Lambda like a function runtime, event source, Lambda layers, and log streams. So function is a program or a script which run in the AWS Lambda, as you all know that. Lambda passes invocation event in your function which processes an event and return it response. So the runtime allows function in various language which run on the same base execution environment. This helps you to configure your function in runtime. It also matches your selected programmatic language. Programming language, yeah. The next one is event resource. The event resource is a service such as Amazon SNS custom service. This trigger function helps to execute its logic. So lambda layer are important distribution mechanism for libraries, custom runtimes, uh, and other important function dependencies. This AWS component also helps you to manage your development function code separately from the unchanging code and resource that it uses. And the next one is log stream allows you to annotate your function code with custom logging statement which help you to analyze the execution flow and performance of your AWS Lambda function. So that's all for the Lambda concepts. So if you have to thoroughly study, you go through with the official documentation. So the next one is what is Amazon VPC? So VPC stands for Virtual Private Network. Amazon Virtual Private Network provides a logically isolated area of the AWS cloud where you can launch AWS resource in a virtual network that you define. So with the VPC, you can define your IP address range, create subnet, configure route tables, network gateway, and security things. This also allows you to isolate your resource in the cloud and control access to them, giving you more flexibility and security in cloud deployments. So with the VPC, you can also create a virtual network in the cloud similar to a traditional and on-premises network. You can provide multiple layer of security, security group network access, which helps to control access to Amazon EC2 instance in each subnet. So what can do with a VPC? With the help of VPC, you launch instances subnet of your choosing. You can choose your own subnet address. You can assign custom IP address ranges in each subnet. You can configure route tables between subnet. You can provide much better security control over the AWS. You can also we can have subnet network access list. So For the deep thoroughly study for the VPC, you can go through with the documentation, official documentation. So yeah, that's all for this. Now for the demonstration, we have to go on AWS console. So here is our AWS console. Firstly, the creation of VPC, you have to just create a role. So go in the IAM section and create a role. So click on a new link. So in this section we have to create role, and the next one is select trusted identity. So I'm choosing as default AWS services which allow AWS service like EC2, Lambda and other to perform action in the account. So I'm choosing here AWS service for the use case which allow an AWS service like Lambda and other to perform action in this account. So I'm choosing here Lambda and click on the next. So in the next step we have to add permissions. So I'm here choosing administrator access. Oh, type wrong. Administrator access. So administrator access, basically which provides the full access to AWS services and resources. You don't have to attach policy in the different, like you have to just create EC2, then you have to attach policy, you have to create VPC, then you have to attach policy. So we are doing one thing, that is we have create one role and give full access to AWS services, which save our time as well. So attach our policy and go to the next. So this page shows the name, review and creates, and it will choose our role details. So firstly we enter a role name, that I'll choose Lambda role. So description as it is. So yeah, you can see we can add permission, that is administrator access. So create role. So it's just pretty much simple. You just have to attach policy and create role. So our role is created. Yeah, that's our role is created. Now the next step is we have to go on Lambda functions. So open link in a new tab. So get started and then create a function. So create function, AWS Service application repository application have moved to author from scratch, use a blueprint and container image. And in my case, I'll choose author from scratch, and the next basic information you have to enter a name that describe the purpose of your function, and I'll choose here function lambda. So in the next, you have to choose the language that you write your function. So in my case, I'll choose here Python 3.9. So yeah, that is same. Now I have to choose our role. So we'll choose an existing role that we created earlier. That is Lambda role. So yeah, that's all for this page and create function. So creating the function, so it successfully created the function. You can now change its code and configuration. So here we can here we can write our copy our VPC code and paste it over there. So, so this code defines that. Um, Firstly, for this, you have to know about that what is Boto 3. So, Boto 3 is the Amazon Web Services SDK for Python, which allows Python developer to write software that makes use of service like Amazon S3, Amazon EC2. It provide an easy to use object oriented API as well as low level direct access to AWS service. You can use Boto 3 to interact with a variety of AWS services such as S3, EC2, DynamoDB, and more. It allows developer to write Python script to automate their interaction with these services and programmatic change to their AWS infrastructure. Boto 3 make it easy for developer to integrate their Python application with AWS with the need to learn the detail of the underlying services. Yes, so this is for Boto 3. So this code use the Boto 3 library to interact with the AWS EC2 services and create various resources within a VPC in the US East region. So my region I selected that is US East 2, which is Ohio region. It create a VPC with a CIDR block of 192.168.0.0/16 and assign a tag uh, name with value lambda VPC to it. So next is create an internet gateway and attach to the previously created VPC. Then it create a route table and a public route where the destination CIDR block is 000/0 and the gateway is the internet gateway created in the step 2. After that it create a subnet with CIDR block and associate it with the VPC and which created in the step 1 and then it associate the route table created in the step 3 with the subnet created in the step 4. Finally, it creates a security group named Slice0 and adds an inbound rule that allows incoming ICMP traffic from any IP address. So, this code also defines a function called Lambda handler that prints certain message when called. The final print statement output the unique identifiers ID of the VPC, Internet Gateway, route table, subnet, and security group. So after that we have to deploy our code. So I'm clicking here. So as you seen on the screen, our code is successfully deployed. So now it's time for the testing. So go in the test section and you just have to fill the information like to invoke your function without saving an event, configure the JSON event and then choose test. So I'll choose your name as event like event lambda. And in the next step we have to events is only available in the lambda console and you have to configure for it private and shareable and I'll choose here private. Then you have to save your test event. So in the next step we have to test it, so you have to wait for some time. So you can see on the screen our execution is succeed. Yeah, our execution is succeed. Now we have to go on VPC and check our VPC is created or not. So go in the VPC section. Let's check it out. So yeah, our VPC is created. So I'll choose your name lambda function. So here our lambda VPC is created. So it is pretty much simple. You just have to create role, then attach policy, and go to the Lambda functions and paste the code of VPC and choose as per your requirement. Then our VPC is created. So that's all from my side. Hope you like it. Thank you.